Oh, Foxy, it's your birthday. Not for real, just for play. This is Cree Summer, and Moana Nui will be right back.
Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Moana Nui podcast. It is good to be here tonight, Wednesday, August 28th. I'm going to be running solo because we are upon Dragon Con weekend, and so Dana is busy coordinating all of our team and all of the different interviews we'll be doing there. A bunch of us will be on different panels for Dragon Con's diversity track and a couple other things. So shout out to the team in Atlanta representing the Moana Nui podcast at Dragon Con. One of these days I am going to get there. I keep hearing so much great things about it. And definitely a very receptive community for creators of color for sure. So I'm excited. We're waiting to hear like which guests we get to interview. We know one of them, but I don't want to spoil it yet. So it's gonna be good though. It's gonna be good. But speaking of which, of the creative community, I'm excited to have my friends on tonight. Greg Anderson Elysee and Jason Reeves, two of my favorite creators. I follow them in the work that they do. Right now they have a Kickstarter on Stronghold is the name of the particular comic. They have like a whole universe though. So like 133 Art is like doing all the things. But let me just do like a quick introduction. Both of them are really powerful creators in their own right. Greg, if you haven't, he's been on the show for a couple times now. I consider him part of the family. And so he is a Brooklyn-born Haitian American writer, award-winning creator, model, thirst trapper, educator. But his award-winning comic book and graphic novel series, It's Nana the Were Spider, is a coming-of-age dark fantasy book about the son of Anansi the spider. And so that's like kind of like the one that he's known for the most, but he's done so much work for other independent projects as well as mainstream publishers like Scholastic. So lots of good things there. He's won awards, lots of things. So I'm excited to have him on the show. Welcome, Greg.
Yo.
Good to see you.
I guess I should have had no shirt for the thirst trap.
I mean, we don't have to do all that. what you got on is good because we're here to promote Stronghold tonight.
Promote the Stronghold. Check that out.
The Stronghold merch. We're gonna show y'all that a little bit in a little bit later. Our second guest is Jason Reeves. He's the founder of 133 Art Publishing. What I love about him is he's very much like me and my husband, like a husband and wife owned company. Really a diverse business in comics. But he started with freelance work at Hasbro and Esquire magazine, and then grew 133 Art Publishing, which is a Black-owned comic media imprint, printing company, crowdfunding fulfillment service. So like, it's a lot of ways that you can leverage this company. So you should definitely check it out because it's a trusted entity in our community. He has collaborated with a lot of passionate creators to show the complexity of Black comics and storytelling. And he's also himself, he is a freelance writer and illustrator working for clients such as Disney, Marvel, Scholastic, and more. So, like I said, some powerful creators here, and I'm happy to have them on the show. Welcome, Jason.
Hey. I always get weird when people list those accolades.
Yeah. No, I feel you. But you got to own it. That's the stuff you did. Own it.
Yeah. I'm with it.
Yes, they need to know what's going on and who they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Um, for sure. So, Jason, I can't remember. Have you been on the show before? Or is this your first time?
Yeah, I've been to the show
For
once,
a
maybe
panel, right?
twice.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe, yeah. Definitely once.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, but for those who like don't know you or are not familiar with your work, can you tell our audience a little bit about 133 and specifically One Nation and Stronghold and
Sure,
like
sure.
kind of what inspired the universe and why it means a lot to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. So 133 Art is my comic book imprint. We've been in business since as a comic book entity since 2012. One Nation is our flagship title, and it was the first title we ever published. Um, I've been a freelancer professionally since 2006. And like you said, I've done work uh, with the gamut. I'm an illustrator by trade. I learned to be a writer. I learned to be a publisher. I learned to be a printer in the process of, being a creator. 133 Art likes to focus on uh, characters of color, black protagonists, black gods, black villains, especially. It's our attempt to put black characters in the consciousness of comics and really focused on them in a way that hasn't really been done in the comic book industry. We don't do sidekicks over here, you know. Ain't nobody chilling for Captain America. So if you wanted to put us in that box, that's what we do. But other than that sort of grand plan, 133R just likes to make comics. We like to collaborate with others in the indie comics community, and we're trying to expand with these new endeavors of like Kickstarter and collaborating with like Dedrin at Subsume and Brian at Wingless, and I'm especially trying to branch out and meet all of the new creators or all of the creators that have been running alongside of me or parallel to me that I just haven't had frequent conversations with. As far as me personally, I love superhero comics and just the whole gamut of comics in general. Superheroes are my favorite though, and that's why we created One Nation, which is a story about superhero activists slash philanthropists, the 10th Foundation, who have decided that the world needs fixing or needs rather caretaking, and they're going to use their abilities to take care of the world, to fix it, to make it better than how they found it. And one of our main characters is Stronghold. And his series is an offshoot of the main One Nation title, where Stronghold is investigating some murders in his old hometown of New Orleans. And the shit just blows up in his face because there's a lot of occurrences that happen once he gets there. And he never wanted to go back there because he was abused as a child by his family. And when he gets back, the abuse hits him in the gut. His best friend dies, it hits him in the gut. And he still has to solve the mystery of these kidnapped children that he was sent there to do. And so it's about trauma, his past trauma. It's about him dealing with the past trauma of his family and the forward trauma of his family coming back into his life. And old loves, superhero battles, scores to settle. It has a lot of different moving parts.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you kind of characterized it that way because I know I supported the first one, but it's been a minute since I dived into this universe. So like hearing about it again, I guess I didn't realize like the complexity of the story and how it fits into One Nation. So like, you're getting me excited again. So
We
like,
and
okay, let me go back and read it again.
Yeah, we've been trying to play it up even more now. Like I'm the kind of creator that tries to keep things close to the vest, but I realize in promotion, you got
Yes.
to put it out there on Front Street. So again, this new branching out era of 133 art is me fixing all that. Like I'm going to be more proactive about getting these stories out and letting people know what they're about.
Oh yeah, definitely. My partner in crime has this a similar challenge. I'm like, tell me the story. Like, tell people the story. Like, I know you have all these things, machinations in your head, and it's amazing, but you gotta tell people about it. You know, like,
Right. I'm learning that. Like that's one aspect of creation, selling it and promoting it. That's like it seems like a touchstone for creators that that's the last thing you learn how to do, and it's the thing that it's not the most important thing, but it is a huge thing when you're trying to get people to buy this stuff and enjoy and consume this stuff is you have to be able to tell them what is the thing about and why should they want to read it, you know.
absolutely. So Greg, you've done a lot of work for your own IP and also working with other indies in the community. How did you get involved in the Stronghold storyline?
So this goes back to after Volume One of his Nano came out. Um, I think Jason was one of the first creators outside of just my own who reached out. And what's funny was, despite the fact that his Nana is so different from Stronghold in terms of not even just characterization, but story, tone, genre. I remember Jason reaching out because a lot of my posts, they're very activists. They're very pro-black,
Hmm.
pro-queer, pro everything that everyone else hates. And
Wow.
so I think from there, Jason just felt maybe I would be a good fit for Stronghold, and Stronghold being a queer character, he felt like he wanted somebody with a little bit of that background to help flesh him out. And at the time, Stronghold, even though he had albinism, he was a completely white person. He was a white character. And a part of me was sort of like looking forward to writing a white character for once, because I was like, oh, I won't be typecast.
And
But
I was like,
no, but what happened was I think it was Jamel Williams who did a pinup commission of Stronghold. But Jamel's artwork is also very. Wait, was it Jamel or was it his brother?
it was Jarmel. Yeah, he was his stuff is like
It's,
blackety
it's
black
black,
in the
so
best way
I
possible.
love his stuff.
And when I saw his sketches, because he was gonna be the original interior artist, he did he did one of the alternate covers for the first issue, and he was gonna be the interior artist, and it didn't work out. But his sketches were so like so black and so, but even though the character had albinism, and even though at first he was like a white guy, I saw those sketches, and you know how you just get like an explosion happens, like a light bulb like burst. It didn't even just go off; it like went, and I was like, "Oh,
Struggle has
let's
some.
do that."
He has some Negro features.
Yes, he had some
I remember,
Jackson 5 nostrils, and I
yeah,
was like, "That's how it's
and like,
supposed to work."
and me, I was just like, wait, why does he look? He look black, and then Jason was like, he's turning black. He's black now. I'm just like, what? And I think at this time too, I had already written the first issue or two, and when we saw the sketches, and then Jason decided he wanted to, turn him black or biracial rather. Um, it was like, all right, so now how does the story change? Because if he's growing up with his white family, and we already established that they're sort of bigots,
Yeah.
and how what in what ways does the story change with him being a black man? And I think it allows so much more nuances and so much context that a lot of books you don't quite read. For one, it's very rare that you even find a biracial black character in comic books. It's extremely rare that you find a character with albinism who is not a villain. And there's just so much that I feel like we could have tackled. And on top of that, the intersectionality of him being a black man who's also queer, struggling with his sexuality, but dealing with a racist and homophobic side. So then on top of that, like,
Right.
given that he's growing up with all of these things, being a member of like various marginalized groups, how does that affect not only his psyche but emotionally, his support
Right.
system? How does he learn to get pride for each and every single one of the things that was used against him, that he was born with as? And I just thought, yo, we can do so much. And
Yeah.
even though I'm not somebody with albinism, I tried to do a lot of research and care, and it made me feel really good. Actually, this past Schaumburg in the Harlem, the Black Comic Fest, there was this biracial black woman with albinism who saw the book, and she was like, "Why are you writing about my life?" And then she bought it. She was like, I'm gonna take a chance, and she reached out to me. I could have sometime that weekend or later, and she was just like, "This." It felt so good to be seen, and she was like, "There was a couple of things that you touched on that I experienced, and it felt like so." Like she felt a little emotional reading it, and I was just like, "Oh man, that makes me feel good," because you don't want to offend somebody, you
Right.
know. But
Well,
the fact that it really like touched her, and she even reached out to me like a week ago. She was like, "Did I miss the Kickstarter for issue 3?" I was like, "No, it's still going." And she's like, "Okay."
it's it's crazy. It does. It feels great to hear that, and then it's what's crazy to me is what's the meaty part of adding all these layers to Damien is that uh when does he decide to identify as the things he chooses, right, throughout his story? And because he's grows up as a white kid, right? Like, even though it's and he lives in, so Damien is from New Orleans, from the swamp areas, from Louisiana, deep south, and so he has all of those influences inside of him as well. And then he decides, how do you come from being raised white and then as a teenager and as a young person get sort of not necessarily introduced to black people, but introduced to activism and introduced to what are you in this world, um because of the way people discriminate against you or in spite of the way people discriminate against you, including your family, right? He has all of this built up, all of these built up experiences and microaggressions. So to me, to read when the scripts are handed in and I read them, and even when I go back constantly through these books to see where he chooses, the spots he picks is it's even fun for me to read. It even makes me feel sort of emotional to see, man, how does this dude become a hero? And so I'm glad that it worked out. Uh, Shout out to Jarmel, because now you know. I don't know if I ever had that discussion with him, but um, it's so cool the way it shook down and the layers that we were able to create for Damien with that, and that's creation. That's how this thing's supposed to work. I mean, comics can do it. I always say comics can do anything, and that is a prime example of that collaborative effort there.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, a good story is a good story, regardless of if it's a queer character, a black character. Like, at the root of a great comic is a great story and a great art to go with it, right? So, like, I love that. Like, even though we're celebrating a black queer character that is not seen, it's not just for a checkbox. Like, it's
Right.
still like this complex character that has a lot of things that he's going through that it's obviously relatable, like the example that you just talked about. But even like when you mentioned like the biracial piece of it and like the different ways that you have to navigate like those family dynamics. You could be like me, which is like not biracial. I'm like multiracial, and I can still relate to the elements of that. Like especially as someone who is married to a black man, and then I go home and I've had my family members who like I love, right, and they ask me like, but why black though? And I was like, why not? Like, what's wrong with it?
Right.
I'm like, he's a person. He loves me. Like why does it matter? But it's just interesting how like these prejudices and discriminatory thinking can happen even in places like Hawaii, where you would think it wouldn't happen because we are known for like the aloha spirit and like being welcoming to people. But even in those types of spaces, uh there's still these characteristics that we should be talking about more, and just really like exploring and challenging that, like why is that this, like why do we think that way, and encouraging us to look beyond the surface of like what the world wants us to only see,
Yeah,
right?
well, I think I think that's why we need more stories that are like that explore those themes, because for so long, I mean centuries, right? At this point, and that's only talking about our country. That's only
Right.
talking about America. But I mean, in the history of the world,
Yep.
a lot of times those things in the modern era, anyway, those things haven't been explored. You know, I've been to the African American History Museum in
Mhm.
DC twice now. Earlier this year, we took another trip down there because we just didn't get the scope of the whole thing the first time. We were only there
It's such
for
a
like a
great
weekend, but
genre.
it tripped my head out to learn that there were multilingual, multicultural folks. I think they still identified as black, or they identified as Brazilian, or they identified as Spanish, and some of them identified as African as well. That just traveled the world. These seafaring people, and they were merchants, and they were deal makers, they were brokers, and because they were multilingual, especially, they had all these different jobs and functions within governments, within townships, you know, and these were people who weren't broke. They made money, and they were all around the world as far back as like the 1400s. So these were people that had a hand in shaping the world, and
Mhm.
they were biracial, multilingual people. And that history, I feel like, especially for a young black man coming up in New Orleans in the deep, deep South again, was hidden. I didn't know that. I didn't even know in New Orleans the history of there was a matriarchal community led by the ladies, led by the women of the period. Like around it was little accelerated from colonial, like right before and after slavery, who ran this part of New Orleans, and you had to deal with them, trade with them, and barter with them. And if you came there starting stuff, they would take you out. And it's weird how sexism, racism, and all this stuff permeates when that knowledge is hidden. And a lot of the stuff I learned at the museum was blowing my mind. And it also sort of signified that, like with stuff like Stronghold and a lot of the other stuff we do, we're on the right path in creating that, because it's not even something that hadn't existed. It's just something that's been sort of downplayed and hidden. And that's crazy. And our children and the younger versions of us need to know that it's not weird. Queer people didn't just get created in the modern era. Biracial people are not a thing that just sprouted up in the 80s. And a lot of the a lot of the tone, rich black people, you know what I'm saying? Like, or black people that are smart, you know? That stuff didn't just happen. It didn't just sprout out of nowhere. And, our modern era will have you thinking that there's new things under the sun.
You
And
showed me.
I
I feel
think
like
that's
I
a
feel like
part of our arrested development.
I feel like God wanted to check an agenda box and diversity box, so that's where He finally started creating black people and queer
Yeah.
people. Like,
He's like,
because it makes sense. They didn't exist before, but God is doing it for political
how can
reasons.
I cause some more tumult this century?
Yeah,
Ah, the blacks.
the blacks, the gays.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so true. But I'm glad you mentioned like the seafaring black people because like I don't like what blew my mind, and I really shouldn't because I've seen like inklings of it. But like black people also had a huge role in Native Hawaiian culture, and like when we were a kingdom, a lot of our advancements were black people were like right, in the center of it. Whether it was like I think our like the first principal was a black woman. Like there was some like inventors of different things that were like integrated into Hawaiian culture. And then if you like look at seafaring peoples, like Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders, Polynesians, like all of those, like they actually, if you look at the migratory patterns, they originate in Madagascar and have come across Asia and into the Pacific. So like again, more things that are hidden, which like pisses me off when all
Yeah.
of these like burn the books campaigns come up, and I'm like, you know what? This is why like I refuse to have like totally rely on digital. Of course, digital has a place, but like I'm all about my books because you're not going to take stuff away and then people
Right.
don't know about it because they've erased it digitally.
Right.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It so it just kind of speaks to like a sort of global idea of right, hidden figures, hidden people. Right. It speaks to like that global idea um of sort of like a unity that and what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of like a synergy
Mhm.
of the people way in times past that because of for whatever agenda or for whatever reason has been hidden. Well, the agenda and the reason is so some people can have power and some not. I mean, that's what the knowledge is. The knowledge is the power to know, oh, wait, my neighbor is not my enemy. In
Mhm.
times past, my neighbor was helpful to me, or I was helpful to them, the people of the past. And if we don't know that, then we get fearful of the other who is our neighbor. And
Mhm.
there's no reason for that because we've all kind of existed together in a synergy. And it always trips my head out, because I read and I try to know about this stuff, but when I learn something new, I'm like, wow, it's crazy that we used to be this,
Mhm.
when it comes to all the people of on the earth, like our ancestors. It's crazy. Our ancestry used to work together, and now we're like, oh man, look at those people over there. I don't
Mhm.
trust them. It's
Beefing.
weird, and it's not necessarily not necessarily. I'm not even speaking of a unity in the sense of we're holding hands, singing, about Coke, like about Coca Cola or whatever. I'm saying there were business reasons, there were monetary reasons, there were land ownership reasons, seafaring reasons. But the point is that everybody was able, or people were able to work together to one goal. And that's important to know. I'm not saying that we have to all live in the same house, but we should be able to exist together. And that blows my mind every time I hear, oh wait, look, these people were actually working together. What do you know about that? you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the things that I love about comics is because you can explore these things and like spark people's interests.
Yeah.
And when they're like, "Oh, did this really happen? Let me go, check it out or whatever. Let me go do some research." I'm like, "Yes, that's what we wanted you to do. Go find
Yeah.
this information, right?" Like, um, so Greg, when you're like, I feel like obviously a lot of commonality in the stories that you tell. We talked about how we're exploring trauma in this one. Uh, why am I blanking now on the last? The last is Nana. Drums, drums of Ogun.
Drums of Ogun.
Because I remember when you gave me like the advanced reader copy, and I was like, "Oh my god, like this dude is dealing with a lot of like weight and trauma and like inner voices." Is like how I saw it, right? And when I told you that, you're like, "Huh, I didn't even see it that way," So like, it's just curious, like what like is it intentional or like what inspires I guess that kind of story direction.
So there is an aspect of trauma that I hinted at in that particular story, but it's something that I don't know how to really say what. It's something that's gonna come to pass. You just gotta stick with it. But there's an aspect of repression going on right
Mm,
now with this Nana that I feel like I've hinted at in previous sort of stories, and then that one is coming to a head in drums, and a little bit of it is going to be sprinkled throughout until finally we learn exactly what it is. But with Isnana, a lot of the things that I like to do, just like as you said, you learn a lot of stuff from comic books. I use Isnana as a way to educate people at the same time, or at least get them interested to educate themselves. Because
mm,
I'm one of those people that I do not like to spoon feed information,
mm.
and there are times I like to watch the things that I enjoy watching is stuff that confuses me, and I'm like, huh? And then I'll do my own research, and I'm like, oh yeah, that shit just blows my mind. Like a Grant Morrison script. Like some you're reading Grant Morrison stuff, and you're like, what the fuck is going on with this person's head? Or you're trying to understand what was the meaning of this and that. But then when you actually read some of his scripts, and the way he breaks down certain scenes for the artist, and you get so much context and meaning, and then when you do your own research and you realize there's so many layers to what the hell that he was actually writing, and it's not his their stuff is not surface level. And so for me, while I feel like you can enjoy my writing on a surface level, there's a lot of things that I'm actually trying to hint at where I hope people can see what's underneath the surface. And there'll be times where I've had people reach out to me and they'll be like, "Oh, I caught this, that, and the third." And I'm like, "You're the first person to catch that," even though I intentionally put it there, but no one has ever brought it out. And then I'll have people say they've had to read it a couple of times for them to get a certain thing that I was doing, or they had to do their own research of finding out, wait, who is this figure that he's showcasing in the book? Because again, I'll probably introduce a god, I'll introduce a hero, and I'll just say this is the hero, and it's not as interactive with them. But I'm not giving you any context of who this character is, and that's when I always enjoy when somebody say to me, they went online to search who this figure was, and they learned all this stuff about them and all this other stuff, and so that made the story make way more sense to them. And I was just like, that's what I wanted. Like, I don't want to spoon feed you of this is who Ogun is, and you need to know all this history about Ogun. No, if he interests you enough, and you want to say, who the hell is this figure? Hopefully, you can go and you realize, oh, this is where this character comes from. This is the culture where they come from. This is
Yes.
their story. This is who they inspire, and all this other stuff. And then that brings a whole completely context to why this is happening to Isnana in this story.
I love that. Yeah, because that's exactly what I did. I was like, "Who is this Ogun? I need to know who this person." Ah, that's dope.
I reading that, I feel like, and I don't know where it's going, so no spoilers for me, everybody. But I feel like Isnana has been repressing a darker side of himself,
Mhm.
like a more violent side of himself. I feel like that might be where it's going.
We'll see.
This is on fine.
We'll see.
because he presents as like a lighter, oh man, like a go with the flow almost kind of cat, and then you see in that one like, wait a minute, something else, something ain't right, something
Like,
ain't
but
right.
then on top of that, Ogun really pushes him.
Which is
True,
Like
true,
he's constantly like nagging at him, and then you do see his Nana sort of blow up,
yeah,
but then at the same time, in his inner monologue, he's constantly saying he doesn't want to lose himself. He doesn't.
Mhm.
He he wants to be who he is. He's not going to be pushed to be this person that he isn't.
right,
And I feel like throughout since issue one, volume one, there's moments of him constantly being tested by people and other figures, and it's like, okay, how can he one up this figure without him losing the sense of who he is? And I feel like that's something that us as human beings we
Yes.
are constantly at battle with.
Yes.
When you're in this comic industry, there's a lot of motherfuckers who like to fuck with you, but you
100.
gotta remember not to lose who you are, because then you
right,
get all bitter, you get all angry. But then
right.
there's good people who are there supporting you, who's behind your back, and you don't want to lose sight of, well, these are the real folks, because you get so bitter and angry about these small amount of people who are testing you, but you can't lose yourself and totally be blinded by the folks who have been there and supported you all this time. And so that's a constant thing that I know I deal with. I know a lot of other people deal with talking to them. And I feel like that's just an everyday situation with a lot of folks. How do you
Mhm.
continue to grow and maybe put a wall in where you're not being taken advantage of, but you don't lose sight of who you are deep down? And I feel like that's a theme with this Nana that's been there since volume one. And it will continue to be tested.
Yeah,
Indeed.
that theme definitely like spoke to me because I was like, man, I can relate to this. I'd be trying to be nice, I'd be trying to, do the thing, but these folks, they be pressing. I'm like, do I need to let them feel it?
See, the the industry will test you, man. Like indie comics, I mean, and I don't know from mainstream comics as much as I know from indie comics. And indie comics test you, man. Like just it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of it seems like the negativity might not be worth the money you make. And it's
Or the headache.
like you need that for the fuel to keep
Mhm.
going, and then there's the negativity that comes in and is like drags you down. So yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah, and that's why I've always like tried to take the approach, especially in the independent community, to be like that positive voice. And a lot of times I'm even talking to myself. You know what I mean? Like when I be posting those like positive motivational quotes, sometimes I'm like I'm in the thick of it and I'm like, I need to post something this like right now. Right
I'm
now I
making
just want to throw it all.
I'm making an active effort not to be thought of as the negative voice too. Like so I feel that too. Like I'm like, man, when I get the notion to post something that may be construed, I'm not a negative guy in real life, but that may be construed as negative because people can't hear my tone or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm like, okay, chill, 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 chill. I'm I think I'm in my real life, and Greg, you could maybe attest to this. You hung out with me like in real life. I'm like a realist. Like I try to tell the truth and say what's on my mind. And it's not always rosy, but
Yeah.
it's not because my temperament isn't rosy. It's just because I feel like those are the facts, right? But when you can't take in tone, then you don't get all the way where I'm coming from. So I try to be a little more positive these days and speak of what I like. Greg and I have argued about this online. Like you're like you don't let people like stuff, and I'm like, no, that's not true. I don't care if people like stuff. I love if you like it, I love it. But I can
I
get
hate that
critical.
saying. I hate that saying so much because it's such a
What?
lie.
It's true. It's
But I think I
true.
love comment. That means you're calling this person a dumbass for liking this shit.
Whatever. I'm
Hilarious,
just like,
right?
what I mean when I say it is, if you like it, I love that for you. I go ahead and love what you like, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're less or anything. I'm just saying I want you to have that. Like, I want you to have it. But like, I don't want people to construe me as, or construe the things I type or whatever as negative, because we do need positivity in our industry. So, little less realist and a little more positivity doesn't hurt anyone. And that's what I'm actively trying to do these days. Anyway, it might get dark at some point, but I'm like, no, we need a little better these days.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I know, like, a lot of us as creators, like, we be going through it, whether it's like, I don't know, life stuff, like the creative blocks, the creative challenges of being an independent creative. Like, so I'm always just like, how can I uplift people so
Yeah.
that they don't give up, because these stories are so important, but it does take a lot of work, money, investment. I mean, that's why we're here, like,
Right.
to tell people about this so y'all can come and support this Kickstarter. Let me put this link
Yeah.
up here because I've been slipping, too busy running my mouth.
Yeah. Come holler at the Stronghold Kickstarter. Look, we
Yes.
we are 50% of the way through, and we
Come
have
on now.
7 days.
Come on.
So definitely come holler at the
Please.
Kickstarter. Um, we're working it out. We got a lot of goodies. We
Yes.
definitely have a lot of good story and art. Um, we got the shirt. Greg got on the shirt right there. We have hoodies. We got shoes. 133 Art has been experimenting with apparel. And we got about 70 pages of great story for people to get into. We have pins and massive amount of variant covers.
Yes.
I need to start talking about the variant covers, but we have crossover covers with One Nation characters and Luna from Concrete. We have from Freestyle Comics, Hot Shot crossover covers. We got a very sexy cheesecake cover with Damien and his pet alligator. There he is.
Well,
Doing his
I was so against this initially. I remember when Jason reached out, he was like, "What you think of having a cheesecake sexy cover?" I was like, "God no, can we not do this?" And then when he sent me it, I was like, "Wait, hold on one second, hold on."
see, see what I'm saying? I was like, this dude was like, it doesn't fit the tone. Like, we have a certain tone. I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, like, we could go a little lighthearted. We could go a little sexy, and Then when he saw it, he was like,
I
oh
was like,
yeah,
"Yo,
okay,
I fucks with it. I fucks with it." Because for one, yeah, it even though initially I was like, it doesn't go with the tone because it's a very even though it's very superhero. There's a lot of light moments, but the the themes are so fucking dark and serious.
right,
So I was just like, but at the same time, we put sexy moments in there, like him discovering his sexuality for one, like, or that the fact that this black man in this woods is actually turning him on, and and like, and how does he navigate and explore that, given that
right,
he's also extremely religious and he's been taught to hate that side of him, so I thought, yeah, that actually fits, especially
yeah.
in the bayou where he's discovering about his sexuality and experimenting. So I thought, yeah, that all right, I'll allow it, but it is a sexy.
Allah.
So I think, yeah, we have dark themes, and he's definitely working through this past trauma. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of lighthearted moments in the book in general. I mean, Randall is like the lightest of the lighthearted, of the funniest of the funny characters in the book. So it is the full range of human emotion we get, and we're only 3 issues in so far. But like, even shout out to Sheena from Sequential Tart. She was like, it is the range of human emotions that we have going in this book, and that made me feel good to hear that we're affecting people on that level. And so a little sexy cheesecake don't hurt, to serve our folks who might want to be uplifted a little bit in that way.
Yeah, Randall is such a fun character for me to write. I don't even
Oh,
know
there's
how I
Luna.
came up with him, honestly.
Yeah.
But wherever he came from, I just feel like he was needed, definitely needed. I know for a fact one of my favorite things about writing Randall
Hmm.
is it's very rare that you find a proud, flamboyant, almost feminine type of gay character in comics because I feel like everyone wants to avoid stereotypes. And if you notice, a lot of like queer male characters, they're very masculine, or as some people would say, straight passing, as a way to show, oh, they're just like everyone else. They're just like everyone else. But we have feminine queer guys. We have flamboyant who are very in your face about their sexuality, but
Right.
at the same time, aside from that, they still have so much humanity. There's so much more to them than just their sexuality. And
Right.
so I wanted to showcase somebody like Randall, who is so in your face about it that Stronghold Damien has no other choice but to accept that. And it's also him being confronted, even though Damien is very masculine, especially masculine presenting. He's this macho dude,
Muscle
but
dude.
he's this muscle dude, but him meeting somebody who's more slender, who's more soft, who's very in your face at the same time, is very direct, and it sort of challenges his worldview of wait, what is the world? What is gayness? What is this and that? And it softens him a bit more, and then to see their dynamic from like being these sort of rivals as teenagers, as college mates, so when they're adults, they're praying together and they're holding hands and they're like sharing a laugh. I thought that was a really cool dynamic that could be played with, and to also showcase again, Damien being a type of character who's not normally showcased. Randall is a character, despite everyone knowing somebody like Randall, is not always showcased when it comes to comic books.
Well, what's cool about Randall, what I love about Randall, what he sort of means to me, how I click with that character, is his realness, though, right? Like,
He's
he's
definitely the
not just
realist.
played for laughs in the sense of he's the comic relief. He's just a funny dude, but like his realness though is not just an in your face for in your face. It's an in your face because this dude is an activist. This dude I'm sure has his own past trauma, and he's gonna put it on Front Street for you. Like, look, this is the way it works here, and you're thinking about it. You're trying to be, very demure, trying to be very stoic about these situations, and this is not the way to do it. And I think I had a friend like this back in the day, my homeboy Brain. He wasn't queer, but he was just very, very in your face about his opinions and what he thought the way the world was in a way that I wasn't, right? Like I was more reserved as a teenager when I met him, and he was like, "Yo, why you act like that?" He was like, "You ever listen to Tupac? I mean, somebody who introduces you to Tupac is like that's your friend for life, right?" And that's how I kind of click with Randall, because Randall is that. Like, there's a saying, and I'm paraphrasing and chopping it up like a mug, but a really good friend challenges you like to your core. Like you think that you're good or you work, and then a good friend, a soulmate, is what it is. A soulmate comes to
Mm.
you and challenges all of that, and not in a positive way though, in a way that turns you into another person, a better person. And I think Randall is that for Damien.
Yeah,
Damien's kind of stoic and reserved. He's he presents as macho, but that's not really what's inside of him. He's stoic and reserved because he was taught to be that way. And Randall opens him up like a flower like that. And
Yeah.
that's what a soulmate is supposed to do for you.
And I
So
think
that's what me and Randall click. I love that about him.
one of my favorite moments with Randall is the very first scene between them. I think that's what opens up the book when Damien shows up to like his straight gay alliance table, and
Yeah.
he's just questioning like why is this here type of thing, and Randall quickly realizes he was just like, nigga, you a fag too, like type of thing, and like without saying in those words, but that's generally the
Right.
context of just
Right.
like you're literally one of us. Why are you trying to hide, or not even just
Right.
that, but it's multi-layered because he clocks that not only is he possibly queer, but the fact of you have black features. You're probably,
Black.
more, you're close to me than you are letting
Right.
on. And Damien, of course, he gets offended, he gets pissed, and he goes straight to the Christian table as a way of like denouncing all of that immorality that's going on
Yeah.
with Randall. But it is one of those things of just like showcasing of this back and forth that they have, and this is what will eventually lead to Damien being Stronghold.
Is so much going on in that scene because he has to go run to the Christians for comfort and for normalcy, and Randall calls him on damn near everything, right? You might be queer like us. You got a big old nose like us, and then, you have albinism, so you should actually kind of understand people
Yep.
treating you different too. Like he calls him on everything in their first meeting, and I was like, when I read that scene, I was like, that's good. That's real good. Like he's his soulmate, man. That's Damien's soulmate. That's his friend for life.
Yeah, I love that. It's always good to show the nuances of those relationships, and I like what you said. Like when people call you out on your shit, like I know a lot of people like don't like that, but like those are your ride or dies. Like you need
Yeah.
people to call you out because
Yeah.
otherwise, man, you
Well, like
just
your vibration is specific, and when you meet somebody with the same vibration, even if they're challenging you or calling you out or whatever, that's always positive for you.
yes,
Like you meet somebody with a different vibe, you like, I hate that motherfucker, right? Like you like, you don't know me like that. Don't even talk to me like that. But you meet somebody with a similar vibration, and it hit different when they calling
Mhm.
you out, or when they're challenging you or whatever. So that's what that scene represents to me. I love that scene so much. I put it in every sample page I send somebody for the book. Those pages are in there because it's just so good.
I remember Keith and Jones when he read it. That was the page that he was showcasing, and I was just like, ah.
Yeah, man.
But no, I
There's
feel
some, like I said, we have heavy things, but that page is not heavy, but it deals with heavy subject matter, right? Like I think that's sort of the beauty of the comic is that we're dealing with trauma, but in such a, and this is, I'm biased, but in such a human way, even though it's superheroes. And that was the charm of Greg's writing from the jump, like all of his books kind of do that, right? Like
Mhm.
whether he's talking about mysticism or spirituality or sci-fi, or even demons in The Gentleman, it's still dealt with in such a human way, you know, and it makes the story really satisfying to read. So, kudos to your script, homeboy.
thank you. I appreciate you,
Good.
man. Thanks for
Yeah.
trusting me.
Yeah. Absolutely. All day.
This is really good. Like I'm going through the campaign and I'm looking at all the other things. I'm like, do y'all have an anthology with like all of the different One Nation stories collected?
Not yet. I'm still so within the printing side of the company, I don't have the equipment to collect editions yet.
Gotcha.
Working on it. Been working on it for a few years now, but I'm trying to figure out that whole thing. Now we're collecting and bundling stuff into arcs. So arc 1 is the first 6 issues of the first complete story of One Nation. Then Stronghold will be its own series arc, and then arc 2 we're working on right now, that we're about 3 issues into, that'll be some more One Nation stories, because we have a beginning, middle, and end. And I've spoken with Greg about it a little bit. Robert Jeffrey, shout out to Robert Jeffrey, who's the writer on the main series. He knows how psychotic I am when it comes to these outlines, and I know exactly where I want to end up with the characters in One Nation, and they're about to take activism to its height. But y'all got to walk with me there, though. We got to get through this campaign. But yeah, there it is, the Arc 1 bundle. So that will tell you everything you need to know about One Nation and Paragon and Sundiata in general. And then you branch out into the myriad of what One Nation is with Stronghold. Oh, look at that cutie right there. There she is. And then you branch out into Stronghold, and you branch out into Black Lotus and Old Druids, which show you that the character Sundiata is sort of the mastermind of this philanthropy 10th Foundation plan, and he's actively seeking out Karamats, which is what we call the metahumans in the series. And he's actively seeking out these people to enact his plan to make the world a better place.
Nice.
Yeah, we're bundling them on the Kickstarter. They're available on the website as well. But go to Kickstarter first.
Go to Kickstarter.
Yeah, go to Kickstarter first. Because you can only get the Strongholds on the Kickstarter right now. And yeah, we're making it happen. We're doing the team book superhero thing. And yeah, y'all should go to the Kickstarter and check it out.
Yeah.
And get one of these shirts. Show them your shirt.
Yeah.
Show them the shirt.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop this so you can see you. Yeah.
There it is. Look at that.
Well,
You have all of the 10th characters on there, including Paragon and Sundiata, as well as
all the characters I created. I'm like, what?
yeah, all the villains, the mercs on there. Also drawn by comic vet Robert Love. Shout out to Mr. Love, who also did the first series card set, which we're also offering on the Kickstarter. It's 9 cards, $5, and it's One Nation Series 1. We're working on Series 2 right now. I think there might be more cards in Series 2. I haven't decided yet, but we're sort of trying to figure that out. But there's a lot of good stuff on the Kickstarter that y'all should check out.
Please check it out.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, get us to 70%. Get us to 100%. We were at 30%, 29% for so long, man. I was like, oh man, why are we still at 29%? Kickstarter is like a weird time warp kind of deal. Like you lose time just watching that thing. Like it's worse than watching paint dry. Sometimes.
It is, and it has the initial start, and then it goes down, and you're like, oh my god, where is this thing gonna pick up?
It makes you it turns your judgment weird, like you're like, am I 29%? Is that who I am? I've been doing comics for like 12 years. I've been doing the industry as a creator for like 20 years, and I'm like, am I the 29% dude? No, I can't be. So, and I know it's a facade. I know it's fake. I know it's crazy, but it's interesting to be inside a Kickstarter. I would love to rock a Kickstarter that like the first day is done. I don't even know what I would do. Like the Joker says, I'm like a dog trying to chase a car. I don't know what I'd do if I catch the car. If it funds in the first day, what the hell would I do?
you come up with some more stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
hurry up and like people back this campaign. Like this
Yes,
is a
please.
great universe to explore. The storytelling is awesome. The team is great. Like really, just support. Even if it's like if you can't, whatever financially, share the link. Like I think people we sometimes underestimate like our own marketing power to help
Yes.
others. It doesn't cost you anything to tell other people about the project, especially if you know somebody who can relate to the storyline.
And with this project, actually, we have a giveaway going. So
Nice.
sharing actually gets you maybe a reward or a prize. So we have four prizes for this campaign. Two of them have already been given out. So they've already been two winners. But every week of the campaign, we've given out a 133 art collector's box.
Oh,
We've
nice.
given out the Stronghold Funko Pop. Somebody won that.
What?
And then somebody's about to win a pair of P1s, the Paragon 1 shoes. And the last prize is a 133 art style Nintendo Switch. So
What?
the sharing can get you prizes. It sharing and liking automatically enters you into our sort of raffle. And if your name comes out, we contact you, you get a prize. So with this campaign, sharing gets you something.
That's
So,
awesome.
you
You
know,
definitely need to play that up.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, it looks like our hour is over, and
Alrighty.
the time always flies so quickly. But I really
It
enjoyed,
did.
chatting with y'all tonight and the conversation about, all of the complexities of the story. Obviously, the human aspect that definitely resonates with me. I don't care on what medium, comics, film, anything. Like just the nuances of being peoples.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I definitely want to thank you guys for sharing your time here with us on the Moana Nui podcast. As always, we wish you guys all the luck and all the support. People, please, please, please help support, share, back the campaign. We appreciate you. This goes so far for our community, and it helps us to continue to tell these stories and continue building on this universe. So definitely, where can people find you on social media, TikToks, Instagrams, all the places, Greg?
So you guys can see right there on my name, Twitter. So that's Greg and Elysee, Elysee on Twitter. Greg Day, DAE on IG. You could type in my name on Facebook, Greg A. Elysee, because I was shadow banned in my previous name. So, but yeah, you can find me on those main three social medias. Or yeah, go to my Greg Day on IG and you find my link tree, and you'll find everything that I pretty much worked on that you can purchase and check out.
Awesome, Jason.
133art.com is the hub for everything 133 art. We have a gallery on there. Our books are on there. We have comics, merch, toys, cards. You can check out our art station. So that 133 art is the hub. On social media, we're either at 133 art or at 133 art publishing. So it's real easy. Just holler at us everywhere. We're everywhere. YouTube, TikTok, whatever.
Yep, they're everywhere. But right now, go to Kickstarter.com, search for
Yes.
Stronghold, back the campaign, and we thank you all so much in advance for your support for this project.
Appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. On behalf of the Moana Nui podcast, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, share, and subscribe on our channel. Um, I used to say we stream every Thursday, which we still do, but now we got Tuesday, we got Wednesday. The show's growing. It's awesome. And if you're at Dragon Con, be sure to give a shout out to our Moana Nui podcast team there. Dana will be there along with James and Mac and Alan and Anita and the growing convention squad that is that is bringing you all of this awesome content. So
Awesome.
thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take
Yes.
care. See ya.
Peace.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.